things have changed a lot.
Quick shout out, Marcus. Scene of Action helped us with the music and that video as well. So thank you very much, Monty.
Thank you for that. And things have changed a lot. And thank goodness it is finally the year that everybody else gets it. And we have an amazing guest speaker here to talk with us more on the subject. She is the perfect example of someone who has incorporated her passions like gaming, cooking, and her family into a full-time streaming career.
Through Twitch, she also brings us 2 podcasts, the Co-Optional Podcast and MangaPod. Have you guys heard of those 2? And after drinking so much coffee in her chatting stream, she created her own coffee line, which all of us night owls appreciate. So please welcome to the stage, Dodger, aka Dex Bonus.
For the last 9 years, I have been doing everything from gaming content to crafting to vlogging. I went from a kid that was desperately trying to get my last math class done so I could have my degree to a person that has the privilege of being a full-time mom alongside of my job. And a lot of the older streamers will use the term the Wild West when they talk about the internet. It's like when your grandpa launches into this really weird anecdote, except it's more like, well, back in my day, you could make a headshot compilation to Don't Let Me Get Me by Pink, and the man would not come after you. Oh, no, they wouldn't. And I think we can all agree that streaming today is just more accessible. It has more cultural touchstones than it ever did before. And when I first started, it was hard enough explaining to my parents what it was that I did, and they have context about my interests, you know? But I've noticed that over the last couple of years, there's absolutely been a shift. Gone are the days of my good friend telling every Uber driver that he's a producer on the Paul Blart movies so that he doesn't have to actually explain his job. But recently I went to my P.O. box, and there was a girl that started working there, and she asked me what I did, and I was like, oh, I'm a streamer. And she goes, really? Oh my gosh, what do you play? Because I play League, and I've streamed a couple of times, but it's so nerve-wracking. Do you think I'll get over that? And I left with this really weird feeling like, that was odd, but kind of cool. And then we had a lovely gentleman come to our house and set up some security cameras, and we were saying that we worked from home. And he asked what we did, and we told him, and he goes, so do you guys know Pokimane? Because I love her. We've had kids come to our door selling chocolate, and they would recognize us. And then the one that probably will stick with me for the rest of my life is when I was in the hospital giving birth to my kid, multiple doctors said, right, so what's the deal with Fortnite? Because my kid won't put it down. And I don't know whether to credit the burgeoning esports scene or the variety and reach of games for more and more different types of people, or just the lovely community members that take the time to go on TV and make themselves heard on our behalf and tell the world who we are. And I don't just mean what we do. I don't mean like, we play games. I mean that we are full of jovial, smart, giving communities that come together on these platforms, which, by the way, those qualities have always been there, even before anybody knew who we were and what it is that we do. So, yes, it's not the Wild West anymore, but to be honest, the Wild West was kind of hot and gross. So, I say cheers to the new world, where we have a voice that reaches thousands of people, and we have an opportunity to spread a lot of joy. Thank you.
I love Dodger.
Oh my gosh, and pointing out that it's not like these communities were created by Twitch, but that they were there, and that now, because of coming together, we have an opportunity to do so much together and spread joy.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, plus I literally was born from the Wild West, and Dodger's right, it was hot and gross. I like the new world we live in now. Twitch careers are special because as a...
All right. Hi, everybody.
Hi. Hello. Welcome
to the streaming while raising the next gen panel, I decided to submit this panel idea because I myself have a 2-year-old at home, and I stream, and I had so many questions all throughout the process because I was creating content before I had a tiny human. And I thought, am I going to be able to do this? So I've assembled a list of wonderfully talented folks with kids of all ages who stream, and this is what they do for a living. So if you are someone who streams, who is maybe thinking about having kids down the line, or someone who has kids who is maybe thinking about streaming down the line, then hopefully you will get some nuggets of information that will be helpful to you here. So my name is Trisha Hirschberger. I stream on Twitch, and I also host a lot of content all throughout the internet in the worlds of technology, PC building, and gaming. But without any further ado, I would love to have my panelists introduce themselves to you. So starting with Erin, let's go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience, where they might have seen you, what type of content you make, and what your family situation looks like.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Erin Wayne. I work for Twitch in the marketing team, but I actually started out as a content creator making Minecraft videos. I had a tiny human when I started. So my little one was 2 when I started. And my kind of family situation perspective is that for the first 5 years of creating content, I was a single mom, so I was working full-time and creating content full-time and raising a kid full-time. I was tired a lot. So my little one is 10 years old now, so she's older than some of the other little ones here. And she's also on the spectrum, so it provides a unique perspective because she's in my content, and so there are things that we have to talk, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the panel. But that's me. Yay. Now on to you.
Hello.
Brooke.
I'm Brooke Thorne. You might know me as Dodger on my channel. I have a 1.5-year-old, and I've been doing content creation for about 10 years now. So I had been doing YouTube and then streaming for quite a while before we had a kid, and we really weren't sure what that was going to look like because my husband is also a streamer. So we had a lot of conversation about what that was going to look like once we had a child, and we're both raising her, but also trying to stream and also trying to do right by her. So yeah, she's been great, and I'm excited to talk about what that process has been like for us.
Awesome. Thank you. Iffy?
Hey, how's it going? I'm Iffy Wadiway, aka FD's on Twitch, as well as streaming on Twitch. I'm an actor, comedian, writer. Wrote on season 2 of Ticktown, but yeah, 3-year-old little Naomi, full of attitude. But yeah, mine kind of shifted in the kind of like reverse, where like I was married, we decided to co-parent, so now it's really that partnership thing comes in handy, which we'll talk about, and that's how. But also same, like Naomi's starting to get involved in the content, when she gets bored of PJ Masks, it's time to see what Dad's up to.
Hi, my name's Gary Witter. I originally come from the video game world. I used to edit a magazine called PC Gamer back in the day. I then kind of weirdly had a second career as a screenwriter. Probably the thing that I've worked on that you're most likely to have seen or heard of is Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I also wrote the movie The Book of Eli. And when The Book of Eli recently dropped on Netflix early this year, I decided to use Twitch as what I thought would be a fun, innovative way to do kind of a live commentary track where people could kind of queue up the movie, and I would watch it together with them and do like a live commentary and do like an interactive Q&A in the chat afterwards. And that was really successful. And just through the process of kind of setting up my Twitch channel, it kind of got its claws into me as like a hobbyist thing to do. I'm still trying to figure out what my channel's identity is. Sometimes I just talk to the audience. Sometimes I play games. I do AMAs. But I have a 7-year-old daughter, and she wants in on this adventure as well. She likes to stream with me, and sometimes she'll sit on my lap while we play games together and stuff like that. So it's been an adventure.
Yeah. I feel like the question that we all get asked the most when you have kids and you stream is, how do you find the time? Because anyone who's out here who's listening right now knows that being a parent is a full-time job, 24/7. You don't get any breaks. And Brooke, I actually saw you tweet out something back in the day where you were kind of like, stop asking me how I find the time to stream because I have a husband and he's super helpful. That's how I have the time. So we'll start off with you, Brooke. How do you find the time to both parent and create content?
I mean, yeah, my husband and I totally do the co-parenting thing where we were like, okay, well, I'll stream in the mornings because I'm a morning person. I can be peppy the second I wake up, so I'll take that shift. And Sam watches her, and then we have like a couple of hours where we get to hang out as a family, and then Sam starts streaming, and then I do the evening shift with her basically. And it's been awesome because we both spend a lot of time with her. She's really close with both of us. The downside is we don't have a whole lot of one-on-one time, my husband and I. So balancing that has been a little hard, and we've gotten better about it. But yeah, it's very frustrating how often I'll be streaming and everybody will say, "But who's watching the baby?" I'm like, "My husband." Like, what do you mean? I think that there's kind of a general assumption that for some reason, and I hope that this is changing, but there's an assumption that like fathers don't want to be involved or like aren't involved as much. And that's definitely not the case, which I'm sure they will be able to chime in on more. But yeah, we equally raise her and stream and do the parent thing. So
Yeah, that is a good point, because I remember Felicia Day had a tweet where she was like, do any like dude fathers get the question of like, how do you have time for everything? Because yeah, like on top of like streaming, I'm also like, sometimes I'm in a room all day, and then I'm out at a bar doing stand up, and no one's like, who's watching your daughter? Like she's in her car seat. But like, so it is like funny, because I do think it's like this weird kind of like outdated thing of like, oh, your wife must be back home watching the baby and she'll have dinner waiting for you. And it's like, no, it is like a thing. Like when I was married, it was like the shifts of like, oh, I'm doing it now and all this stuff. So now it's like, I know I have Nomi for a time, and like she's kind of part of my personality and who I am. And now like luckily she is at the age where she's like, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna be messing with these puzzles, Dad. But when I need a snack, I'm gonna need you to get off that computer. And that's pretty much our situation. She runs everything.
But your audience understands if you need to throw up a BRB screen and go get Naomi a snack.
Oh yeah, especially like my favorite BRB screen is like, oh, I haven't heard anything for a while. I have to get up. There's been one time where I was like I like the way I've set it up, because of course we plan for this. My like streaming like setup is right here, and like her and all her stuff is right here. But one time, got in the Apex top 3 situation. You know how it goes. And then I hear a doorbell ring, and I was like, huh. And I open the door, and it's my daughter. Because she went outside and closed the door because she wanted to ring the doorbell. And I was like, okay. Nobody saw that.
Wow. How's it work for you, Gary? What's your situation look like?
I've been streaming only for a few months, but we've settled into a fairly predictable routine at this point. My daughter goes to bed at around 7:15, 7:30. My wife and I both, kind of put her to bed, and by the time she's settled, I go downstairs to where my streaming setup is, get my stream set up, and I'm usually able to go live around 8 p.m. I don't have a regular schedule because, again, it's a hobby for me, and a hobby is something I do when I feel like it, as opposed to when I feel obligated to do it. My Twitch partner manager, and everyone says, oh, have a schedule. But I know that if I have a schedule, I'll resent it, and I won't want. I've got to stream on Friday because I said I would, but I don't want to do it. It'll end up being counterproductive for me. But we reached a compromise where I do now have one regular night, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. I go on a little bit earlier, and my wife and I reached an agreement where she will do bedtime solo that night, so I can start my stream a little bit earlier, because that's another thing my partner manager told me. If you can start earlier, then so much the better, because every hour you wait, someone's already invested starting watching another stream, so it's better to be on at 7 than 8. So Wednesday night, 7 p.m. is my regular time. My wife puts my daughter to bed at that time. And from that point, once my daughter's settled, our time, what parents know, it's like once your kid's in bed, like those precious few hours before you also conk out, like that's your grown-up time. And I use that to stream, 2 or 3 nights a week. Also on the weekends, so my daughter she wants to get in on this. She's 7 years old. She's a chip off the old block. She loves to play video games. She's very headstrong. She's got a lot of opinions. And she's bummed out that it's something that I do after she goes to bed. She feels like she's missing out on the fun. So I started streaming a little bit on the weekends, like on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. She'll come and, Daddy, can we stream together? She loves it. She'll sit on my lap. We'll play games together. I drive, but she kind of helps me. And we're playing a game right now called Raft, which is like a survival game where you're trying to survive on a raft in the middle of the ocean, and you're constantly running out of food and water, and I'm playing, and she's backseat driving. Daddy, the shark's eating our raft. I'm like, oh my God, I got to fix that. And it's really fun. So she sits on my lap. The chat loves it because she's adorable. Right, so it's it's a value add from my stream because everyone loves her, but we're very protective of how we use. I don't say use her, but like how she appears on the stream.
That's a valid way to put it. Yeah.
We don't use her real name. She knows not to say it. My wife always moderates the chat. My wife moderates the chat. It's a kind of a family enterprise. I'm the person in front of the camera, but my wife does all the hard work. She does the back end. She moderates the chat. She helps make the merch. She talks to people. She helps make the emotes. And so it's kind of a little family business, and my daughter wants in on that. But like I said, when she's on my lap, again, there was one time where I did it without remembering to tell my wife she wasn't moderating, and my wife literally kind of sent me an instant message saying, get off the stream now. If I'm not moderating, I don't want you on the stream together. And so we shut it down because she's very strict about that. She wants to be able to moderate the chat in case somebody says something creepy or whatever. And in an ideal world, my daughter wouldn't be able to see the chat. But I don't know how to fix that part yet. She's sometimes like, Daddy, what's this person saying or whatever. And so I have to be very careful about what she's exposed to. But so far it's worked, and I love streaming with her. It's really, really fun, and the audience seems to like it too. It's cute.
Yeah, go ahead, Brooke. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying, I hadn't really thought about like how much everything must change once they're able to read.
It's really like, I think that having a moderation team in place, because so my daughter's been essentially since the beginning, like everybody knew from the time that I was making YouTube videos that like my kid was involved. So she started when she was 2 and couldn't read, and we were doing VOD back then. And so there was no like, once you recorded, you were done, and she never saw the final product of what that would look like. And then when we transferred over to streaming, it was a totally different ballpark because she was like 6, 7. She could read. She knew the chat. But I have like the highest setting of like auto mod on. Yeah. My moderators know when she's going to be on stream. Like I tell people ahead. We also don't use her name in stream. And we've even like, I've slipped up sometimes and said her real name. And the mods will tell me like, hey, when you're done, highlight this part and this part and then delete the VOD. And like they timestamp it for me so that they know, hey, just so you know you did this. It's fine. But we had to do the balance thing too of like finding when you're on and when you're not. So my schedule for probably the better part of a year and a half at first was I would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd drop her off at 6:30. I'd go to work until 5:30. I'd pick her up at 6. I'd have her until about 8:30 when she went to bed. And then from 8:30 or 9 until 2 o'clock in the morning, I would do YouTube. And then I would wake up at like 5:30 or 6 and I would do it all over again. 10 out of 10 do not recommend.
Yeah, I was going to say, how long did you last before you got sick or conked out? Or?
I just kept doing it though. Ooh. Like I just kept doing it all the time. And after a year, my mom was like, are you alive or are you just walking and you're dead and no one told you? Like you do not look like a normal human being. I was like, I told somebody earlier, I was like existing off of like 5-hour energies and Red Bulls, like 3 a day. It was horrible. So I was really glad when I was able to transfer to working at Twitch part-time as a contractor. And streaming was a totally different thing because it's so much more relaxed. It's like you turn it on, you can do it when you want to. But we had to find a balance because with her, she's the same. She really wants to be on stream. She really wants to be on camera. She really wants to be a part of all of the content. But there's a really weird dynamic when your kids kind of start to get older, which is like, I know that if the stuff I did at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 was recorded and captured forever on the internet, I would be like, look back and be like, oh my God, that's horrible. That's mortifying. And so we have to have like a very strict, like, cool, you can be on camera, or you can be on stream, you can do these things. In these limited capabilities. And because she's on the spectrum, when she gets really, really excited, she kind of like loses all of the like rules, just like fly. They're gone. They're not there anymore. And so we've had to work with stream. We have color coding things. So when she starts to like lose it, we'll be like, hey, you're on orange. You need to like take it down a notch. And stream knows what that means. And so they also know when I say like, hey, we need to reset. We like take a break, we go 5 minutes, we calm down, we recenter, and then we go back on stream. And if it happens more than once, then we turn the stream off. Because I don't want those things. And she's also now vocalized to me like, hey, she'll do something funny, and then I'll be like, oh my God, that's so funny. And she'll go, don't tweet that, or don't say these things.
Right.
And so we also have a rule in our house that I don't say, tweet, video, talk about anything unless I've run it through her first.
Awesome.
So she has some kind of agency over what she is in content, which I think if I could go back now, I don't regret any of like sharing the funny moments or the things that she's done. And I think everyone here does a really good job of like censoring the things that they do. But I do wish that starting at like 5 or 6 or 7 that I had just started asking, is it okay if I tell people you did this? Is it okay if we tweet this picture? Is it okay if I do these things? Sure. Because she has an opinion and she wants to be involved and she wants to have that sense of agency. So I think that's also a part of the discussion of finding balance as your kids get older, of not only finding the balance of like time streaming, but finding the balance of like what is shareable and where is the line of like what is shareable and what is not.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
When Sam and when I was still pregnant with her, we had a couple of conversations that were like, how much of her do we really want to share? And we had agreed, like, we don't really want to post pictures that often. We don't really want to, have her on stream that often. And that all like kind of flew out the window because, well,
you get excited.
First of all, because I'm so excited. I'm like, look how cute my baby is. But also, because Sam and I are so like, I'm on and then you're on, there are so many times where like Sam needs to do something really quick, but I'm streaming. So he'll be like, oh, Clark's gonna sit on your lap for a minute. And I do the same thing. And he'll be streaming and I'll be like, oh, it's time for Clark to play some For Honor. So that has wound up happening so frequently that people will sometimes come in and be like, oh man, did I miss Clark time? And that makes me feel a little weird. Like, I don't want it to be like, oh, there's a segment of my stream every day where you see my kid, and yeah, people do come in and are like, oh man, she's gonna be so embarrassed one day when she sees this VOD, and that also makes me think. Oh.
But I think that there's a sense of like one of the really good things I think about Twitch that you lose when you go to VOD is that VOD is meant for short-term content, which means the organic and the like natural part of those relationships is often filtered out. And so what you get is a very like Facebook, Instagram, like this is the best of the best and this is all that you see.
Right.
And I think that it is really healthy for people to understand that like, I have to be a person for 5 minutes and bye. Like I think that you can tell when like everything is something versus like, this is a very real part of my life and like, I need to like, sign for a package and so you need to watch her so she doesn't fall down the stairs. Like I think there's like part of that which is a very real, like you have this balance and like your daughter has to be there. Like stuff happens and like that's part of our lives and like being a parent doesn't absolve you of like also making mistakes or like needing to like not only play video games for 5 hours.
Well,
like that's very real.
Yeah, I think something I heard a lot, especially like because like as a millennial and a comedian, like people are like, what? Like having like the concept of having a kid.
Do you also own a house?
Yeah.
You shocker.
No, I do not. I do not own a house. Real hyped over this apartment I have. It has a room for my daughter in central AC. Now that's a mansion in LA.
Crushing it, yeah.
But yeah, no, there was like, it's funny, I think the one nugget I'd say is just allowing yourself to change your stance, because I was the same way when I first started. I didn't want Nomi on the stream at all. I was just like, stream time is just me time. It's like this, da, da, da. And then as I changed and as I grew as a person, and then I just became more me online, I just, Nomi's, because she never is going to be, like, she's not clocking in. It's like, give me a headset, Dad. Let's get these claps. It's like... she's always like there just for a second till she's like, all right, this is boring to me, and then like she's out. So then I've just kind of allowed it, and it seems more since I've allowed it to naturally happen. It just kind of comes and goes, and like she'll pop up and she'll go, or sometimes she'll throw a ball at my head while I'm playing. Like that's her new game that I do not like. But I think also for me, it came like I was able to find like my limit because I went to an extreme. Like I remember my commercial agent convinced me to bring Naomi to an audition, and that's when I was able to be like, oh, this is what I don't like in terms of creating content. Because you went in, it was for Walmart, I think, and they were like, all right, have your daughter, she's going to be playing with a thing, and you're going to be like, oh, what you playing with? And she's going to be like, this thing, and we're like, Walmart. And like, and she was sitting on my lap, and she was a little young, she was 1, and because she's a baby, she was like, no, I'm going to just sit here and be a baby.
Right.
And then, and like, they're like, what is she doing? I'm like, oh, she's being a baby. She's a baby. Like, make her do something. Like, I was like, I can't, because she's a baby. And I was like... that's when I was like, and that's when that's what I like about like content creation. When we do it, is like I get to have Naomi, like you said, on our terms, and you can do it exactly how you want it. Do you not want to reveal their name? You don't have to. Do you want them on just for a segment? You have. Do you want to go to BRB? And that made me a little more accepting, because I was like, oh yeah, I'm in control of everything, and I have my mod team there to have my back whenever I like need them to like step in or all that, any of that crazy.
And it's also, there's so many, I think, now parents on Twitch, right?
Yeah.
That like there is no right or wrong. In fact, like I think what used to happen would be like, well, so-and-so does this with their kid. And I'd be like, that's great for that parent. That's what works for them. Like, that's fine. We did a commercial with my daughter for Lenovo. We did one about girls in coding. And so it worked really well for us. But like, I think the thing about it is like choosing what works.
Yeah.
Like if they came to, we did one for SpaghettiOs too, because it was Star Wars. And I was like, hey, it's SpaghettiOs wants to send us these Star Wars. And she was like, if you don't take it, I'm not doing my homework. And I was like, okay. So the compromise was we put her in a pink Darth Vader mask, and she's eating through like a Darth Vader mask. Like, anyway.
Amazing.
But I think that there are ways to do it that like work for you, and there's no set standard. So like, don't, if you're questioning how to work your kids into your content, what I do or Brooke does or Gary or Ifty or whatever, there's nothing that's like right. It's what works for you and your level of comfort. As long as you're not
I feel like that's
outwardly shilling your child out. That's like
that line's different for everybody. And I'll be honest, like my son is 2.5, and I still haven't figured out that line. Yeah. I went into it much like if he was saying, where like in the beginning you're like, I'm not going to show my kid at all. Privacy concerns, freaking out about that kind of stuff, because just as a female gamer online, I've dealt with privacy issues. So I'm like, my child didn't ask for this. And then I started noticing, I actually noticed it more on Instagram than anywhere else, but in all the social media content I was putting out, my son wasn't a part of it. And especially in the very early days, all I was doing was taking care of a baby. So like, all my posts not having my baby in them and being like, living my best life with like an ice cream cone or whatever, total lie. Not real, not what I was doing. I was covered in spit up with zero makeup on, like barely able to get out of bed because I was a zombie. And
Wait, are you telling me that Instagram is not an accurate reflection of real life?
I know, right? What?
my dreams are shattered.
Right? So I looked at my social media and I was like, this is a lie. This is against everything I've ever done about, like, because creating content, like, we are all being who we genuinely are on the internet. That's what this is all about. And so as soon as I kind of took a break from my super extreme, I'm not sharing any of this at all because of privacy concerns, to, but this isn't my real life anymore. And trying to figure out how to marry those two. So currently my Twitch community is the Dragon Riders, and I have a BRB screen that says BRB feeding my tiny dragon. And everybody understands that that means I have to go take care of my son at some point. And that being said, like, I hadn't even thought not to use his real name. I say his real name all the time, so everybody knows his real name. I didn't even think about that, but that's a great idea. But, you know, everybody finds this path on their own. And then I also throw to you guys, so we've been talking a lot about how to get your kids in your content, if you're going to put your kids in your content. And again, for people who choose not to, that's totally fine if you find the balance that works for you. But has anyone here had branding concerns about bringing their children into their content? Like, for me, I always thought, prior to having kids, I don't know that I want to invite my significant other, now my husband, on my streams all the time, because I don't know that I want this to be a two-person channel. Like, this is my channel, and if they want to come on it sometimes, that's cool, but I don't want it to be a two-person channel. And in the same way, I thought, I don't want my brand, or I'm scared that my brand will turn mommy blogger when that's not really what I'm interested in. And the second that I tweeted out, hey, surprise, I'm 7.5 months pregnant, I got contacted by, like, bottle warming companies and all this stuff that were like, please make a dedicated video. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do that at all. And so has anyone on this panel felt like, oh man, if I'm too open about sharing my life as a parent, maybe that will hurt my career in some way?
I mean, you're very aware of my nickname, Trisha, which
But
is...
please share.
Thought Dad. I went ahead and smushed my two brands together, which is being completely thirsty online, but when it's time to be a dad, it's time to be a dad. it was something that kind of accidentally happened naturally, which is like, I still am. You're still yourself. I think one of the biggest fears when you become a parent is that you're gonna somehow morph into, the Leave It to Beaver family or something. But really, you're just you with now another human to take care of, and it is scary because people are willing to like smush you into like dad content or mom content, but I noticed it was just hopping between like the wild stuff that I typically do for laughs and ha-has, and then like there are like moments that I like to share that I'm like proud of, where it's like, oh man, like I'm noticing my daughter get nerdy. Like she got real happy she got to dress up as Owlette and was like running around and making me pick her up to fly. And I was like, I was like, I want to share that,
No one on the stream could hear it, but the whole front row just went, oh.
So like those are just as important to me. So once somebody was like, it was my friend, I always give her credit, comedian Madison Shepard. She was like, "You're a thought dad," and I was like, "You're right." And that's how I just kind of smushed it together.
I think for me, it was interesting because I was already a parent when I got into it. And like, when I stumbled into making videos, like I thought that YouTube was for cats. And I didn't know that like somebody the first time I was like, play Minecraft. And they're like, let's stream it. And I was like, what's that? And they're like, people are going to watch us. And I was like, that sounds so stupid, but all right. And here I am. I work for Twitch. It's great. Everyone should download it. Please use the app. 5 stars on iOS. Thank you. But I think that because I stumbled into it, I had like no idea of like what was what. But I had grown up always a gamer. And so for me, being like a tabletop gamer and always playing with my dad and my brother's friends and my dad's friends, and I was the only female, to then have a child that I was raising also to be a gamer was an interesting thing that I kind of naturally wanted to talk about. And then especially because at the time when I got into gaming, there weren't other female gamers that were like kind of coming to that forefront and being used in brand opportunities and all of these other things. And so people saying like, oh, you're a female gamer, what's it like? I could like anecdotally speak to what it was like to be raising another female gamer that was like up and coming in consoles and like seeing the shift. And so it wasn't part of my brand in that I was outward going like, hi, I'm a mom who plays video games. Like I was never that person, but I was, I had to do like a talk once for a company, and it was, I mean, I'm not gonna name the company. It was a lot of dudes in suits. And so they flew us all there, and they were like, we're gonna introduce you to this up and coming gamer, and they have all these followers, and they're really cool, and they play all these games. And they were like, welcome Erin to the stage. And just like all of them went, oh, all these people in suits went, what? She's not 14 and a boy? Like, it's the same thing where like I think people are like, what? Gamers are also parents and they have children and they're raising other gamers? Like, yeah, do you want to sell things and make money? Because we are now raising your next generation. I think that's part of it, right? Is like, gamers are multifaceted people, and you don't have to be just a gamer. You can be a gamer who also has a kid, who also has these things without it overrunning your identity, but you are allowed to be more than just one thing. And so like, that's something I think people forget, is like, you're not just a gamer, you're not just a streamer, you're not just a whatever. You can also be like a volunteer and a firefighter and like all of these things, and it's fine.
Yeah, I feel like when I first had Clark, one of the first streams that I did when I came back was kind of a like maybe overly honest Q&A about what it was like to give birth. And because my content has always been like, I do variety gaming, but a lot of it is also just talking about life and trying to be really, honest and
you are very transparent.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
And so when people were asking me questions about things, I just answered as honestly as I could. And I got so much feedback that was like, I'm actually way less terrified to have a baby now.
Awesome.
And I've gotten that feedback a lot, like how openly I talk about, the difficulties of raising a kid and what pregnancy was like and what giving birth was like and all of that stuff, just trying to be really honest about the joys and also the like woes of it. A lot of people have said, you know what, it sounds way less scary now because it's not just like this amorphous thing, And so I think for me, it wasn't necessarily me going, man, I really hope that I'm not just branded as a mom. It was just an extension of what I was already doing, of already like talking about life and what was going on with me, and now Clark is a huge part of what's going on with me. So yeah, I haven't really run into that as much, and maybe that'll change. You know, Sam and I have talked before, like, what if we did a family channel, like stuff like that. But overall, yeah, it's just I'm a parent now, so I'm going to talk about what it's like to be a parent, and I'm glad that some people have had like really positive reactions to that.
Yeah, Brooke, when you were pregnant, did you have any hesitation about telling people and telling your community, or did you right away like?
You know, we waited a while.
There's hilarious.
There's a clip. I think my second most viewed clip is us telling everybody that we were pregnant. It was in January, and she was born in April. So I was definitely showing, but I had been hiding it for a while. And it was just me and Sam, my husband, and I rolled back and went, "We're having a baby!" And you just saw my giant belly. And my husband was like, "Oh my God."
They were gonna have like this really sweet, like, "We're having a baby, we're so excited," and Brooke just goes, "I'm pregnant." It was the best pregnancy announcement I've ever seen.
I saw the hesitation on Sam's face, where I was like, "Well, we have something we want to tell you guys." And I looked at Sam, and Sam had this look like, I don't know what to say.
He looked genuinely like a deer in headlights.
And so I was like, I guess I'm just gonna go for it. And I guess that set the tone of how we talk about our child since then. So.
I love it. I love that you are so open and upfront, and really everybody on this panel, because I had a conversation with another friend who is a prominent content creator, and I didn't ask her if I could tell this story, so I'm not going to mention her name. But she and I were both pregnant and hiding it for a really long time. And we were meeting up for what we lovingly called Prego brunches, where we talked about, you know, I'm still creating content and I'm still online, but I'm super pregnant and I haven't told anybody. Yeah. So, like, how do I make this work? And we eventually just had kind of a, like, come to Jesus moment where we were like, why are we not telling people that we're pregnant? Like, this would be so much easier if we weren't going through this 3-ring circus to hide that we were pregnant. And it was a very real conversation about, am I afraid I'm going to lose followers? Am I afraid my brand's going to change? And I don't know if men feel this differently than women do, but I know for me, the fear was like from the 80s. Like, I was like, mom's talking about gaming isn't cool. Like, the second that I tell people I'm a mom, no one's going to want to hear me talk about video games anymore.
Now
and
you're
that's
a cool
so
mom.
sad. But Ari, like, people like you pave the way, and we're like, look, I'm upfront about this. I am a mom who also games, and everything beautiful that you just said about, like, you can be a firefighter and a volunteer and a parent and a
Let's
gamer.
be clear,
and
I didn't do that on
creator.
purpose. That was like just totally accident. But
it was awesome and
you.
inspiring, and thank you. Because I, to anyone out there who's listening to this panel now, this is part of why I wanted to do this panel, because I think the more people that kind of have this Venn diagram of all the different parts of our lives that we're willing to share, the less that people out there think a gamer is specifically this one type of person. And the more that other people can, you know, if you have to put up a BRB screen or bring in, your partner has to bring in your baby so that they don't fall down the steps or whatever, that we don't have to be afraid to show those real life moments. Gary, I know you were a parent before you ever started streaming. So were you ever afraid when you started streaming to say, like, hey, I have a kid, or was that just always par for the course?
No, I mean, the majority of people that came to I have a big social media following on Twitter, so when I started the Twitch channel, most of the people that showed up there already knew who I was, and I used to talk about, you know, being a dad, and I showed pictures of my kids on Twitter all the time, so it wasn't any, it was all, the cat was already out of the bag. So far as that was concerned. And look, I don't have to worry. I'm not cool to begin with, so I don't have to worry about being a dad making me less cool. Like, I'm already at the bottom level. So it's not like, oh, this guy seems cool. Oh, he's a dad though. Like, I don't know. And by the way, I think being a gamer dad is cool. And there's a lot of us out there. We're what, 3-4 generations into the video games now. I was born in 1972, the same year Pong came out. So I'm like the OG generation. But we're now like 3 or 4 generations into it now. So and we're as valid as any other gamer. I would say perhaps even more valid because we've got the experience. We've been there from the beginning. We've seen some shit. There's such a joy in seeing your kid take an interest in video games and realizing, oh my God, she's a chip off the old block. It's not so great when she actually legitimately beats you at Tetris for the first time. I get the whole thing about the student eventually surpassing the master, just not at 7 years old. Come on. But she's great. She loves games. She loves to stream. I couldn't be prouder of the fact that she's going to be a nerd just like me and her mom. That's great. And again, we didn't push any of that on her, but she saw, just through osmosis, she saw me and her mom playing video games all the time, and she saw it was cool, and she wanted to pick up the controller and play. The same, she sees me streaming. She wants to join in. It's brilliant. You feel like you're passing the torch to the next generation of gamers. And so I love that she's a part of the stream. I love that she's a part of my identity. I think it makes me more cool, not less cool. I think it makes me more interesting, not less interesting. And I don't, look, most of my viewers, I think, are of a certain age. I've been spotted now, as I walk around. For me, I often describe conventions like this as like celebrity fantasy camp. I don't get spotted out. I don't get recognized out in the wild. But when I go to PAX or E3 or Comic-Con or I come here, the very small subset of people who know who I am, they're all here. So I get recognized for 2 days. I get to feel like what it must be like to actually be a real celebrity. Oh, you're Gary Whitta. And I take selfies. But they're all people of a certain age. They're all kind of like doughy, middle-aged guys like me. And so I don't have to worry about appeasing or appealing to like the cool millennials. That's not my audience anyway. My audience is other gamer dads who get it, who have the same experience as me. There was a whole thing recently there was a discussion recently about difficulty in video games. And I play everything on easy mode. I don't have time to fight the same boss 50 times. I just want to experience the story. I don't want to. I'm not as good at games as I used to be. I want to enjoy. I want to play the game at the difficulty level that's appropriate for me. And it was one of the most popular tweets I ever had. So many people go, "Oh my God, yeah, I've got the same problem. I've got kids. Who's got the time? I don't have time to play these games. Like to put 50 hours into a game. I want to play it and move on to the next one. Like time becomes your most valuable commodity as you get older. You have more money, but you have less time. And you can make more money, but you can never get back the time that you spend. And so time becomes by far the most precious commodity. I guess I have a few hours after my kid goes to bed to play games or watch a movie or whatever like that. And so that time you really, really think carefully about how you allocate that time. And I think that the majority of my audience are people that are my age or close to it and have kids of their own. And so when I speak to them, I'm talking about things that they understand. So I don't care about being cool. That ship sailed a long time ago. But I like the fact that I speak to people who are like me and who understand what I'm saying.
Gary, have you considered neglecting your children? Like I tell my daughter I'm going out for milk and then I'll start streaming. But no, I have a question for everyone here because I'm from a generation where like I always remember this sentence that my dad said to me. He was like, if you will never make money playing video games, you have to stop playing video games. And I remind him of that every Thanksgiving and will till the end of his days. But with that, I often wonder, like parents in this generation, you have kids making $1 million in New York, so like, are we gonna see like, video game stage moms, or do you want to encourage your kids to be in esports? Like I want to be the LeVar Ball for esports, where Naomi's like, Naomi, you're gonna be playing for Luminosity. She gonna be in Luminosity, baby. When she come in, you ain't seen her 360 no scope. Like that's my dream. Is that for y'all?
I think that because we've had this talk with my daughter a lot, so she started saying, I want to do what you do, and I was like, what's that? And she was like, you just play Minecraft all day, and I was like, that's okay. So then I started bringing her to convention, and she was like, why do you walk so much? And I was like, yeah, because I'm working, have fun. So I think that there's like the kind of anecdote to go back to the NBA thing that we talked about is that like, I've always raised my daughter and all of the classrooms of kids that I talk to, because our school's like, come talk about video games to these kids. The kind of thing that we've told them is that you can grow up playing basketball your whole life. You can want to be in the NBA. You can want to be, the next Michael Jordan, right? There's only one Michael Jordan. But that doesn't mean that you can't ever play basketball again. You can be somebody who does sports therapy. You can be a coach. You can work in marketing. You can work in social media. You can do all these things that revolve around the thing that you love, which is basketball, which is sports. And you can still play basketball in your free time. You can still do other things. The important thing to do is like be flexible and follow your dream and give yourself options and be patient with yourself. And that like sometimes things are not going to work out the way that that you want, but it doesn't mean you have to completely abandon ship and like leave it alone. So if you grow up and you want to play video games and you want to do like me, I played video games and I realized that playing video games full time was not for me. It was not something that I could do. It was too stressful. It wasn't reliable enough. The income wasn't where I wanted it to be for where I wanted to go. And so I transferred the skills that I had and the career that I had previous to her being born, and I melded them together, and I found something that worked. And that doesn't mean that I still stream. She watches me stream. She watches me go to conventions. But you can still do the things that you want to do without having one end goal, that's the only end goal you can ever have. And if it doesn't happen, then like you just shrivel up and there you are. I don't there's options for you and there's things that you can do. But hell yeah, like you are, as a parent, you are their biggest advocate. And like, it's your job to pick them up when things don't work out and dust them off and be like, cool, let's figure out what's next. We're gonna get through it. Like, where do you wanna go? I'm here to support you. And if that's 360 no scope, like 360 no scope all day, but also do your homework. There's a balance.
Yeah, so when it comes to your kids and gaming, does anyone have a personal philosophy on like which games to introduce to your kids first, which games to maybe hold back from your kids, or do you kind of let their interest aside? Mine's only 2.5, so as much as I'm like, put him in the baby Bjorn and giving him Joy-Cons and try to like just dance it up, like he doesn't have an opinion on that yet. So how do you navigate that?
So right now, Clark has, we put a couple of little, she loves numbers. I don't know why. But we put a couple of little like number games on our tablet that's like designed for really young kids. So she's like kind of, starting to play something that, has response to what she does, and she really enjoys it. And she loves when Sam like gives her a controller and she, figures out, oh, if I just keep hitting this button, the person does this over and over again, right? So she enjoys stuff like that, and I'm trying to start her off with stuff that's still helping her like develop.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, there are people who insist that like you will learn on the games I learned on, and like start them on a COM64 or an original NES. But everyone has their own way to do it. So that's what I'm just curious what yours are.
Yeah,
I was going to say, that's actually something I'm really conscious of, and I think this is true not just to games, but movies and TV shows and things like that, is I know that a lot of parents want to kind of push the stuff that they loved onto their kids, but I feel like that can be really counterproductive. It's like, I feel like that can backfire. It's like, oh, you're telling me this is cool, so I'm going to decide it's not cool. Like my kid knows that I worked on Star Wars, but I didn't badger her to watch it until she eventually came to me and said, Daddy, I want to watch Star Wars. And so I queued it up for her and let her watch it. But I just worry, like, I'll play like the Beatles and like classic music around the house because I feel like it's good for her to, there's this music and stuff that is just objectively good and classic and should be a part of anyone's kind of media diet growing up. But I just let her, my parents let me discover the things that I liked for myself, and they didn't try to push their own tastes on me, and I try to do that with my kids. I'll suggest things and recommend them, but if she doesn't like them, I won't hector her over it. I let her kind of draw her own course.
There's been a lot of times where, like, because she's also grown up as part of the, like, YouTube generation where she watches YouTubers, and there's certain things that YouTubers will do a video, and we have the rule where, like, if I don't know the YouTuber, you're not allowed to watch them. Like, I have to look into their channel, and I will click the subscribe button, and I, like, look at the things that you're reviewing, and all of the apps are on my account, so I watch all of her watch histories. Like, we have very strict rules about social media and, like, how she's allowed to use them, and she doesn't have Twitter or Instagram or any of these other things. But when she wants to play a game that I've never played, like Undertale was one of them, and she came to me and she was like, I want to play Undertale, and I was like, isn't that like a really dark, like, scary game? Isn't that like, there's a lot like, do you want to kill this person? I don't think that's appropriate for like a 7-year-old. There's a really good website called Common Sense Parenting that like walks you through what other parents have to say. And so I rely on that a lot if she comes up with something that like I've never heard of. And then for stuff that like that one, she kept badgering me. She's like, I really want to play it, Mom. I really want to play it. You can play it on peaceful mode, and like the soundtrack's so good. And so she kept pushing me and kept saying like, I want to do this, and you can play it on pacifist mode or something.
Yes. Pacifist Ren.
Yeah, so we walked through it, and so I had to do all this research, and so we finally sat down, and I was like, cool, we're gonna play it. I'm gonna sit down and play it with you, and you're only allowed to make these choices that have this outcome. Like, it was like the most work for a video game I have ever done in my life, but like, you have to find the common ground, and you have to like, I don't know what happens if you don't, but like, I'm terrified that she's gonna come to me and be like, I had a nightmare about this game.
Right.
She's much less emotional than I am, so like something will happen and she'll be like, I don't know, you hungry? I'm like, okay. So I think that it just relies on like the older they get, like they're smarter than us now because they're being raised on technology that we never had, and because kids talk at school, and like Hello Neighbor was like another one that like the school sent home an email and was like, you are not allowed to bring Hello Neighbor to school. And she was like, I want to play this game, and I was like, they just sent an email. No. And then I had to like look into it, and I had to read these reviews, and like it's a lot of work to be a parent of a kid who likes technology, but it's worth it, I think, being able at the end of the day to be like, my kid was super mad I didn't let them play Grand Theft Auto, but like they also didn't play Grand Theft Auto, so I'm gonna mark that as a win for me today.
That's a win.
But I think that you just have to do what's best for you, and it's a lot of research, and take the time to do the research so that you know that you've done the right thing for you.
Totally. And we have been talking so much that we barely have any time for questions, but I do want to open it up to the audience. If you guys have any questions, feel free to come up to the mics and ask these folks. One thing I will ask, while we're waiting for people to come up, is have your convention experiences changed, and how do you deal with travel being a parent? Do you choose not to go to as many a TwitchCon or something like that? And also shout out to the convention centers that have nursing rooms.
Woo!
Yeah.
You bring much less stuff when your kids are older, and they have to carry it themselves, which is like really nice.
But you bring your kids with you.
I bring her to, like, I don't bring her to TwitchCon because I have to work, and so like I just can't be working and dealing with like a serious issue and my kid being like, what are we gonna eat? I can't do that. I will twitch and won't be good. But I do bring her to the conventions that are more relaxed. Like we go to VidCon every year. That's like her thing. We walk around the convention show floor. She has her things that she looks forward to. So I do bring her sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah, I basically stopped going to conventions when I got pregnant. So this is one of the only ones I've been to in recent memory, actually. But shout out to my husband, who is solo parenting for these 4 days. Woo! He's the best. It makes you feel like that's going to be a lot more work to go, right? Because you have to you're not only bringing an extra human, you're also bringing so much, like their necessities.
And germs.
Right? And I don't want her to get sick.
I remember being at E3 with my pump in a backpack and like a makeshift cooler that I had to ask the Starbucks lady for extra ice every 3 hours to make sure my backpack stayed cold enough. Yeah, it's nuts, but it can be done. All right, so let's throw it over here. You have a question?
Hi, obviously you can see I'm a parent as well. Hopefully she won't scream into the mic. My question is, have you guys dealt with any pushback being parents in the industry, and if so, how have you dealt with it?
I have, because I do a lot of hosting for networks that I help host their Twitch channels and YouTube channels that are not networks I own. And I think that this has no malicious intent, but I did deal with, after I had my son, a lot of producers I know just automatically assume, well, Trisha's not available, she just had a baby.
Right.
So I had like a pretty deep 6 months that I really didn't see any work coming in, even though I was ready to work again. So I just think that that's something, it's a stereotype that you kind of have to fight against. Anyone else?
I mean, I just got, a lot of like, I'm so surprised that you're streaming already. But again, I had the support system with my husband for us to be able to like get back to work fairly quickly. And I don't think that it was ever said with a lot of judgment, but there was just this like, don't you have more important things to do than work? Right? It's like, well, honestly, like babies will integrate into your life easier than you expect. It's hard, it's a lot of work, and you're not gonna sleep very much for a while, but like, but they do, they just become part of a new normal, and it can be fine working fairly soon after.
My daughter tried to get me to let her have, I don't remember what it was like Twitter, maybe, by telling me, Mom, we were on stream, and she was like, hey, Mom, she sprung it on me. She's so smart. She was like, Mom, if Twitch chat agrees that I should have a Twitter account, will you let me have one? And I was, exactly. Exactly. And I was like, nope. And Twitch chat was like, come on, Mom. And I was like, let me have a real talk with you guys for a second, because this is not your baby. No. And so I had to like, we had a really, like, for 2 seconds, and I was like, and also, you want to be grounded later? And she was like, I'm playing Minecraft, Mom. That never happened. But I had, like, Twitch chat kind of, like, got on me about, like, well, why won't you let her have an account? And I was like, I don't need to be judged by you, first of all. And second of all, she's not 13, which is the terms of service, so all y'all rule breakers out there. And I was like, also, she doesn't need one. And, like, we had to have a really good talk. And at the end of it, going from being, like, criticized to, like, you're mean and you're not fun, to, like, okay, yeah, Mom. You mom her, and then they were like, boo, don't ask us again. And I was like, this didn't play out for you, did it? But yeah, I've had situations like that where like she's sprung it on me and then chat kind of like pushes me, and then I have to like kind of double down on my stance as a parent, but like I'm not, like you're not gonna bully me into changing the way that I've decided to raise my kid, and I think people are understanding once you like give them perspective.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your question.
Thank you.
And over here?
Hi. So this question's a little bit more for Dodger and Trisha. We recently found out that we're pregnant, and we're actually a duo stream, my husband and I. So I was wondering about that period after you had the baby, and how was that transition of, because traditional jobs you have maternity leave, so how did you balance like after the baby's there and then starting to stream and working with that new schedule? Did you take some time off? Like what were both of your experiences with that transition?
Do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I basically told my chat that I was not sure what was going to happen. I wasn't sure how much time I was going to need. I didn't know what it was going to be like to have a newborn. And everyone was very understanding, which I think is why they were so surprised when I came back fairly quickly. But I don't know. Like, it was just kind of play it by ear. Like, well, I feel good today. Like, I think I'll stream, and it became easier the more that I let myself just only stream for a couple of hours, maybe even. It became easier to just say like, yeah, I can consistently do this, and then I can consistently do more and more and more. So yeah, and I think it's just important if you have a support system, if you have people you can rely on, ask them for help, because it is, it is your job, or it's, at least something that you want to. If it's something you want to put time into and it's important to make time for it, asking for help will do wonders.
Yeah, asking for help is huge if you have access to it. I don't have family help around, so it's just
I don't
me.
either.
It was just me
We
and my
fly
husband.
people out sometimes, like, please.
And my husband has a 9 to 5, so Monday through Friday I was on my own. I couldn't just be like, this is for you, which is why I stream Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. But for me, I was the same way as Brooke. I didn't know. Like some parents I talked to were like, oh, I only took 6 weeks down and I wish I had had more. And some parents I talked to were like, I was a stay-at-home mom for 4 days and I couldn't do it. So, everybody's different. And for me, I thought, maybe I'll love just being home, and maybe it'll be nice to have a big break from social media. And I lasted about 5 weeks. Now, I was still on social media, and like Brooke said, when you feel good enough to stream, maybe pop in a stream, but I really didn't consider myself like back to work. And I found that for me, hats off to all the stay-at-home moms and dads out there, it is a very selfless life. And I found that for me, I would be more fulfilled and I would be a better parent if I started working again. So I had my work time where I could focus on the things I was passionate about, and then my parent time when I could give my baby my full attention. I felt like I was 50% successful in everything when I was trying to do it all, and it didn't work for me. But like I said, everybody's totally different. So after about 5 weeks, I kind of like started emailing everyone I know, and I was like, I'm available for work again, please hire me. Because I needed to get back out of the house and doing stuff. So give yourself the time to do whatever you want to do, would be my advice.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, over here.
Hi, I'm Kimberly the Geek. So I have struggled with, like, how do you manage having a channel with mature content, and, like, what if your kids pop in? Because that's, like, I don't want them on stream because I have a mature label and I have a potty mouth. And I don't know, like, what the, like, terms of service or, like, where the line is for mature content and kids on there. So, yes, I don't know, like, a separate channel or...
Yeah, that is, like, something I am... like I think about, because people have been like,
Tell us, Thought Dad.
people have like seen the way I talk and the way I do things, and like, what? And I typically was like, oh well, I kind of operate on the Kevin Smith parenting rule of this is how I feed you, this is how I pay my bills, and don't repeat what I say. But like I don't. They like, you know, to go back to the thing we were talking about earlier, like if I'm playing like a hyper-violent game, like I was playing Gears, I don't like having Naomi sitting there because she doesn't need to see men turn into juice. She
So
like,
good, though.
yeah.
So good.
Like I try and think of it, but like when it's something that I'm saying, you know, and she's kind of like young, so I do kind of get like a little bit of the agency of people being like, oh, she's not really into like what she's saying. She hasn't started repeating yet. So like that's generally what I is. But people understand that, you know, there is just a facet of me. Like I'm me and I'm a parent, and trust that I'm a good parent and that I like, you know, you're only seeing this front-sided face of me. You don't see when I do discipline her, when I do tell her not to do things, when I do, you know, ask her to stop jumping on the couch. You know, like, so I try and like trust that the audience will understand that and then just go with that. But like if she pops in and, you know, I'm talking reckless, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be a dad because I'm not talking reckless at her, it's at the chat. And then it's like, yeah, and then I was blah, blah, blah. Anyway, you want a juice box, baby? All right, let me go get you a juice box.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's
Awesome, thank you.
It's not something that I necessarily thought. I mean, my wife and I both, it's constant obscenity in my house. And my kid, fortunately, is smart enough. She understands the difference that those are grown-up words. She doesn't use them. It's not even something, she just kind of naturally understood that. Like, she doesn't swear, she doesn't use bad words. But we don't regulate that at all.
Right, yeah, I'm the same at home, so.
Right, and so, you know, I swear a lot on my channel when it's just me. I don't do it when it's the both of us. You know, and I'm very fortunate that the chat kind of self-regulates. I probably should say, just to be absolutely clear, my daughter's going to be on the stream. If anyone talks out of turn in this chat, I would treat that the same way you would if you said it in front of my daughter in real life. Like, you're gone and you're done.
It's your
I have
house.
zero tolerance for that. And in terms of like mature content in games, I'm also very fortunate that my kid's very sensitive to violence. Like I can't play Borderlands or Red Dead or anything like that until after she goes to bed. Like she can't even be in the room when like gruff men are firing guns. Strangely, she'll watch my wife slash people's throats in Assassin's Creed all day long. But she doesn't like gruff men or guns or anything like that. And so like.
There's a Venn diagram there somewhere.
So, like,
She's got the
if
Wonder
I'm
Woman
gonna
complex.
do a stream with my daughter, we would play like Untitled Goose Game or something like that. That kids like that's just
Yeah.
appropriate. That to me is just common sense.
Just because you're like, I think this goes back to being multifaceted. Just because you, as a person, when you are singularly on your own, are mature content focused, doesn't mean that you can't not do that if you want to share that experience with your kids. Like, I just went through a Gears 5 campaign. I wouldn't do that with my daughter, and then the next day we would be playing like modded Minecraft. Like, I think you can be both. You don't have to be one or the other.
So you switch back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
question. And I'm so sorry, we are like totally running over time right now. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who came out to this panel. A huge thank you to our panelists. And real quick, where can everybody find you? Shout out your Twitch channel.
Aurelian.
Dex bonus.
If D's.
I'm sorry, are we doing Twitch names?
We're doing Twitch names, yeah.
So I was miles away for a second there. No, because I was just thinking about saying, like, I feel bad for the people that stepped up to the mic. So if you want to just come up to us afterwards and ask your question, we'll do it. Gary Witter, GaryWhitta. Just like my name is spelled up there.
Yeah. And Trisha Hirschberger. And yes, just like Gary said, please come up and ask us questions afterwards. If you still have questions, hit us up on social media. I have to run over to the Tiltify stage, so I apologize I can't stay and answer more questions. But
Thanks,
thank
Twitch
you
chat.
all so much for coming. And thank you to everybody watching this live streamed on Twitch. You're amazing. Happy TwitchCon.